So for these notes, we're going to look at transformations for logarithm or exponential functions. Logs are easy to spot that it says log. Exponential functions, it's when the x is the exponent. Here we have horizontal translations. Horizontal translations is when we move on the parentheses. Let's see. We're going to do green for horizontal transformations here. So it's the add or subtract from the x value. So if I subtract a number, I go to the right. If I add a number, I go to the left. And these are just different examples of how we can see the horizontal translation. It's always add or subtract on the x. Vertical translation is not with the x. Not with the x. For my vertical translations, I'm going to use, let's use blue this time. It's the k that we add all the way at the end. Notice it's not with the x again. That's horizontal, it's with the x. These are on the outside, and I do want to point out, like, for example, this first equation, I can have the -4 first, and then the log of x. It's still a vertical translation, and same thing here with the h. I can have the 7, and then the 2 to the x. That 7 is still going to move me up. So there's different ways how we can see them. The first example, I'm subtracting 4, so I go down 4. The next one, I'm adding 7, so I go up 7 or up 5. Then the next question is my reflections. We're doing reflections either inside of the inside with the x or outside in front of the whole equation. In front of the whole equation, that is a reflection on x-axis. In front of the x is a reflection on the y-axis. And so we're going to use that same pattern for all of these. If the negative is in front of the x, like these two, that's a reflection on the y-axis. If the negative is not in front of the x, if it's in front of the whole thing, then it's a reflection on the x-axis. And I do want to say, if I have an exponential equation and the reflection is on the y-axis, it could be something like that. That negative in front of the x is a reflection on the y-axis. Next, I have horizontal stretch and shrinks. Those happen inside of the parentheses, and we normally don't really see them as much, or we haven't done them as much this year. So they're kind of hard to do, but they happen inside in front of the x. And they're kind of the opposite of what we see. If we have a 5, normally would think, oh, we're going to stretch by 5, but this time we're going to shrink or compress by 1/5, because horizontal is inside of the parentheses and it's opposite, HIO. Horizontal is inside and opposite, HIO. It's inside and it's opposite of what I think. It's inside of the parentheses with the x, and it's opposite of what I see. So it's a 1/5. This one's also a shrink by 1/5. Even though I have a negative, that negative is just a reflection. It doesn't actually do a compress or a stretch. The 2/3 is a stretch of 3/2. So we flip the fraction for horizontal stretch and shrinks. Vertical are the honest ones. They're at the front, all the way at the front. I'm going to use pick for those. But they're in front of the equation. So here I have a vertical stretch. And this one is by 5. I don't have to flip the 5. The next one is a stretch by 5. Even though it also has a reflection. The reflection doesn't affect the 5. It's still a positive 5. The negative just does its own thing. This one is a shrink by 2/3. And so here, this should be on the back of your notes. It kind of tells you, it gives you all the transformations and where they go on a exponential function at least. So if, for example, I have y equals 2 to the negative 2x plus 3, The 2 is literally the base. We have A, B, H, and K. A is the number in front of my base. My base is the one with the exponent, so there's no A. My A is just an invisible 1. My B is the base, which is a 2. And then for H and K, H is whatever I'm adding or subtracting. In this case, I'm adding the 3 to the X. It's whatever we're adding or subtracting to the X. But because of that negative sign, we do the opposite. So it's going to be -3. So that means we go to the left 3. And then for my K value, I would ideally look for it over here somewhere if I'm adding or subtracting a number. But because I'm not, then I don't go up or down. That -2 that I have here inside, the negative is a reflection. And you should always double check. Okay, it's in front of the X, it's the negative in front of the X, so it's inside. So it's a reflection on the Y-axis. On Y-axis. And then for the number that's in front of the X, I'm going to use the red for it. That number right here, that 2 is definitely bigger than 1. So we do a horizontal shrink by 1/2. So the 2 gives me a horizontal shrink by 1/2 because we flip it.